For our project, we decided to address the topic of immigration and inequality. Although we have discussed immigration in class, the lecture didn't show the personal stories and struggles that these individuals have faced and continue to face today in America. Given that this is the case, we decided to venture into the history of our own family's experiences with this topic. As demonstrated by the globe, we represent a diverse body of immigrant descendants: Mexico, Ukraine, Philippines, Iran, and Korea.
My story is that of my mom, Mercedes Weinstein. In 1967, my mom came to America from Mexico, and as a 2-year-old, she had no say in the matter. My grandma was the one to make the decision. My grandma was a single mother of 4 children at the time and felt as though she had no other choice but to move to the United States. She wanted her children to have brighter futures and better opportunities in employment and education, and she felt as though that was impossible in Mexico. So my mom grew up in the US for the most part, as any born citizen would, because she came here at such a young age. Given that this was the case, my mom feels as though she never had any issues with things like language barriers or formal discrimination. But hey, that's just my mom's story.
My story is that of my grandma, Gertrude Suharev. She came to the U.S. from Ukraine, formerly the USSR, in 1979 as a result of communism. In her home country, she experienced a lack of freedom, discrimination, and little possibilities. Given the ability to escape, my grandma, along with my dad and grandpa, decided to take the opportunity to immigrate to the U.S. They came to the U.S. as refugees. My grandma was reluctant about leaving Ukraine because she was around 50, and leaving to another country at that age was hard. But my father and grandpa thought it was the best. Upon arriving, she knew no English and came with only $200 in her pocket because of her status in Ukraine, which did not allow her to lead a better life. Regardless, she tried teaching herself English because she knew it was going to be hard getting a job without knowing the language. Although she faced hardships, she did not complain about her experience in the U.S. People were very nice and she was happily surprised. The people here are a lot different and nicer than what she was used to in her home country. Reflecting back on her life, my grandma does not miss anything and would never want to go back to Ukraine. With the recent issues in Ukraine, she feels sympathy and patriotic towards the Ukrainian people. While she maintains her Ukrainian culture, my grandma has assimilated herself in many ways to the American culture. Not only does she root for the Americans in athletic competitions and keeps up with politics, she also never misses a chance to vote in elections. The moment she felt truly American was the first time she was able to vote. While this may be, her cooking will always remain Ukrainian, and every time I come over, she gives me a little taste of her old life.
My story is that of my stepmom, Maria Lourdes Mabagos. At the age of 30, she immigrated to the United States from the Philippines. She decided to move here for economic reasons. Upon arriving in the United States, she was both excited and scared. The first couple of years were difficult for her. If one thing was clear to her, it was that money did not grow on trees. She faced hardships including the inability to purchase her basic needs, such as a transportation vehicle, shelter, and very rarely food. Good thing she had friends willing to help her out. So on top of being homesick, she had to accept the reality of her tight financial situation. And it did not help that she was working below minimum wage with no benefits due to her status as an immigrant, and the fact that she could only be hired by employers who were willing to sponsor for a working visa. Over the course of time, she was able to overcome financial challenges, and she was able to obtain her U.S. citizenship with the help of one of her bosses. Now she has a wonderful high-paying job as an accountant at an established firm that provides amazing benefits. Lucky for my stepmom, she had a happy ending. Regardless of her skill set, she faced many hardships in trying to find a job in comparison to U.S.-born individuals with the same credentials. Unfortunately, many immigrants like my stepmom face similar discrimination when trying to enter into the American workforce.
My story is that of my father, Mohammed Razzaghi. He came to the United States from Iran at the age of 17 in an effort to escape the Islamic Revolution of 1979. His major struggle as an immigrant was never that of policies, laws, regulations, or even discrimination. Instead, it was the sadness that came with not being able to visit his family in his home country. In fear of being detained by the Persian government, he spent 23 years without seeing his family. During his time apart, Sadly, my father lost his brother and mother, of whom he has still never been able to visit or say his last goodbyes. Although much sadness is involved with my father's immigration story, there have been many moments where he has felt great pride. My father explains that the proudest moment of his life and the time he felt most American was seeing his son graduate from Harvard University. P.S. He obviously doesn't know LMU is better. Although he was not able to finish school himself, he indirectly allowed greater opportunities for his future generations, which not only include my brother, but my sisters and myself.
My story is of my dad, Daniel Lee, who traveled to America from Korea when he was 11 years old due to his parents' desire to start a new business. My grandpa wanted a better life for him and his family because they were extremely poor. Although he was able to obtain an education in this country for a majority of his life, he still experienced inequality. In college, he received a B+ on an English essay, and after receiving this grade, went to his professor and asked what he can do to improve in the future. He was told that a B+ is a very good grade for an immigrant and he should not bother trying to improve. From this incident, my dad felt dumbfounded. He felt like the professor, an educator, should have been more open-minded to the fact that an immigrant can indeed get a high grade in English. Despite his professor's opinion, he managed to disprove this comment by graduating from a 4-year university and going on to a higher education by receiving an MBA. Although all of our ancestors have derived from different countries and have different experiences, we, as the descendants of our immigrant parents and grandparents, share many similarities. We have all benefited from our families' acts of immigration. Their actions have allowed us to obtain better opportunities, including a higher education at a prestigious school like LMU, and hopefully better job opportunities as well. Additionally, all of our families came to the U.S. during the wave of contemporary migration, which has spanned from 1965 until now. It was the Immigration and Nationality Act amendments of 1965 which abolished an earlier quota system based on national origin and set in motion a powerful set of forces that are still shaping the United States today. It makes sense that all of our families came during this period because previously, the U.S. immigration system had been race and nationality based, favoring Northwestern white European immigrants. As of now, we no longer politically discriminate against immigrants by barring certain individuals based on their national origin. However, as seen through our stories, there is still social discrimination based on one's status as an immigrant. This displays one of the many current immigration issues that we still face today. Thank you for watching our presentation. Does anyone have any questions?